Okay, so in chapter 13, I'm mainly going to show documentaries for you right now. I always feel that as we come to the end of semesters, that everyone has become quite mentally exhausted. And, yet the information is just as important and significant. Um, but I kind of like us to kind of let up a little bit, and I realize that for those of you who have actually stuck it out this far, um, you've been doing great. You're learning a lot. The textbook is going to be as rewarding for you as documentaries and some of my lectures. So with this week, I'm mainly going to show a series of documentaries that completely line up with this particular chapter that I went over before. And so you're going to write notes on those. But I just kind of thought this is really an important time with the major refugee crisis and a concern for many white Europeans and many white Americans about the threat to the dominance of whiteness. And this is a real issue that's people say out loud sometimes or others not, in the sense that the United States created a mainly white society at the expense of the Native Americans. And statistics are showing that in several decades, it's not hard to fathom to see that Americans from the Western European background will be a minority, or a much smaller number than they were before. And I think with this, it makes sense, in a tragic sense, why we see the rise of more kind of white, conscious, racist, nationalist groups that are feeling this reality coming into being. And in Europe, right-wing parties that are very much emulating the fascism of the Nazis and Mussolini are on the rise as well. And it has a lot to do with bad economy, an influx of refugees, and many, many Muslims that are not assimilating. Part of that, I have to say, I think is also due to the fact that many European nations are also not doing much to help make that happen either. That's another debate and another topic for that could be kind of discussed in Western Civilization 105. What I just wanted us to do, though, is realize that the West, whatever one thinks about the more recent cultural exchanges between the West and what is often called the Third World, and the the fact that so many from Africa and the Middle East are coming in to Western countries now, and that Islam is making such a strong presence in Europe and the United States now, and all this kind of controversy and tensions about this. This chapter, I think, is the chapter that everybody needs to study and think about how we got to this place. And the way in which the West actually first went to other places and kind of imposed the Western world onto the so-called Third World, and how then this then brought Africans, people from India, opened up Asia, and basically all of the world, the rest of the world that many people say the world of color, into more so into the Western world. And I think that we really need to reflect on this. There were some activists immigrants' rights activists in Europe who put up a poster, and it says, "We are here because you were there." Now, what are they saying? They're talking about this time period. What they're saying is, those of us not of Western descent that are living in Western countries are only over here in your country because you first went to ours, and this relationship got created in this way. Okay? Now, again, I don't have a time to go over every detail, and each European country did its own unique kind of thing, whether it be colonialism or targeting a particular other country. The Dutch dominated Indonesia. A lot of Americans maybe are not aware of that. You had Dutch going into South Africa and dominating in South Africa. The British were everywhere. France, so on. And then of course in the Western Hemisphere, really Spanish, Portuguese, and English are the three main languages of this hemisphere. And why? Well, right, okay, this chapter makes it pretty clear. We understand how that is. We're technically in the United States, far away from Western Europe. So how does this continent become so much a part of the Western world? Right? Okay. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you an interesting clip from Casablanca, that famous TV show with Humphrey Bogart, if you've ever seen it. It actually takes place in World War II. And so I just want you to kind of pay attention to what's going on here. And I want to kind of crack open your minds again to about this whole relationship with the West. Now, again, this is only going back as far as World War II. But in a second, I think you're going to see what I'm getting at. Okay, so just watch and listen closely.
Roundabout refugee trail sprang up. Paris to Marseille. Across the Mediterranean to Oran. Then by train or auto or foot across the rim of Africa to Casablanca in French Morocco. Here, the fortunate ones, through money or influence or luck, might obtain exit visas and scurry to Lisbon, and from Lisbon to the New World. But the others wait in Casablanca, and wait, and wait, and wait.
Okay. So what I'm showing is, if you look at Casablanca, what we forget in World War II, that France and Britain, which were on the Ally side, still owned all these colonies going, dominated these different colonies going back as far as some of the time periods covered in this book, are certainly, if not back that far, the time periods that we're covering in this book were the time that Europe got its foothold into places like Africa and the Middle East. Now, with the World War II going on in Europe, it's Europeans, Westerners, going as refugees, as it's showing in the beginning of the movie Casablanca, into the African and Muslim Arab countries as refugees, which was not something that Africans and Arabs and Muslims and all these other groups actually allowed. They had no choice because the dominance of France on these countries was not a choice. This was colonialism. Okay? And so why does France have so many Algerian Muslims? Why are there so many people from Pakistan in London now? You've all seen Victorian films, right? Where you have, even The Secret Garden. There's always an old movie, sometimes even a new movie, depicting British people having tea in India, right? Or parts of Africa. So I'm just kind of reminding us of how long this stretch goes into, and that what we are currently seeing is a byproduct of really the history that goes all the way back in the time period of this book. I'm going to end here and I'm going to go into the next lecture. And again, I'm only going to do like one more lecture and then we'll go into the documentaries.